And Mr. Speaker, I rise in strong opposition to this bill, and not because I oppose the repealing of the 1099 reporting requirements. I do. I have a record of supporting 1099 repeal and relieving America's small businesses from onerous paperwork and onerous regulations. What I am opposed to is paying for the small business tax bill by increasing taxes on working middle-class Americans. And that is exactly what this legislation will do. Let's not kid ourselves. Democrats offered a different path. Last July, we put forward legislation to repeal the 1099 reporting requirements, and we paid for it by eliminating loopholes in the tax code that reward those exporting U.S. jobs overseas. And the Senate has offered an alternative path as well. Last month, they overwhelmingly passed a bipartisan repeal of the 1099 reporting requirement, which did not include a tax increase on middle-class workers. But my Republican colleagues in the majority here in the House, who have continually preached lower taxes, less regulation, and fiscal discipline, have refused either of these alternative approaches. Instead, my Republican colleagues are forcing a vote today on H.R. 4, a measure that will impose a $25 billion new tax on middle-class families. Yes, you heard that right. It is only 59 days since my Republican colleagues have assumed majority control of the House of Representatives, and they are already breaking their campaign pledge of no new taxes, a pledge that 234 of 241 sitting Republican members of the House signed. And no, Republicans are not taxing the wealthiest 1% to pay for this small business relief bill. They are raising taxes on middle-class workers like firefighters, police officers, nurses, and teachers. The very American families who work day in and day out to make their financial ends meet. The very American families under attack today in Wisconsin, in Indiana, in Ohio, and across the Midwest. Now, the Republicans will not admit that embedded in H.R. 4 is a tax increase on the middle class, but the facts are the facts. The Joint Committee on Taxation says the Republican bill is a tax increase, citing how it will raise $25 billion in new revenue. That is congressional speak for a tax increase. Even Grover Norquist, the author of the Taxpayer Protection Pledge, has said, and I quote, "Americans for Tax Reform has always followed Committee on Joint Tax methodology. Yet still my Republican friends deny and deny and deny. My friends, read my lips. Republicans are raising taxes. Just look at the contents of the bill. Under the Democratic Health Reform Law, an American family of four earning $88,000 a year is obligated to pay no more than 9.5% of their income on health care premium costs. In this example, that is $8,360 that comes out of their pocket on a typical family policy valued at $13,000. So the family would pay out of their pocket $8,360 in annual premiums for their health care coverage, and the federal government would provide a tax credit, not a subsidy, a tax credit valued at $4,640 to cover the rest. These are not subsidies, but tax credits to working people. They work exactly like the child tax credit or the tax credit to make college more affordable. How many of all of our constituents use those tax credits? Do they believe it's a form of welfare? I don't think so. They understand the difference between a subsidy and a tax credit. These are not subsidies to the middle class. They are tax credits for the middle class. These are tax relief measures for the middle class. The Affordable Care Act also ensures that the federal funding going towards a family's health premium is paid directly to the insurance carrier, to the insurance company, not to the family. In short, the family receiving this tax credit will never, ever personally touch that money. Not a single dime do they feel. It never transfers through them. However, under the Republican bill, H.R. 4, if that very same family that earns $88,000 and the breadwinner in the family is called into the boss's office, and the boss says, you know what, you're on your track to management. You're doing such a great job. We're going to give you a $250 bonus. Take the family out to dinner. It's the holiday season. And you're all overjoyed. And you go back to your family and say, I'm management material. I got a $250 bonus. I'm taking everyone out to dinner tonight. Well, here's the rub. You would go from the 398th percentile of poverty, federal poverty level, to the 401st percentile of the poverty level. And when that happens, you would then owe the federal government for that $250 bonus. In April of the next year, the federal government say, not so fast. You owe us $4,640 to make up for your having access to those tax credits. That's right. They'd have to pay back every single dime that went directly to their health insurer, to their health insurance company, when a dime never crossed their fingers. Not a single dime crosses their fingers. Say it ain't so, Joe. That's what families back home in my district are saying, but I can't. It's true. The Republicans are raising taxes. The 1099 provisions should be repealed. I agree with that. But not on the backs of middle-class workers and middle-class Americans. And I thank the gentleman for yielding me the time, and I yield back.